Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. In this video we continue on with the series of previewing every position, this time going into the ruck line and doing it all as we know generally there's only probably about 25 to 30 rucks that play a decent amount of games in a year. If we just look at it quickly here, just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 15... It was about, I would say, 22, 23 that played over 10 games in a year. And you obviously want a ruck that's going to play probably 20 or so games in a year at least. And some of these guys are dual rucks anyway, as a ruck forward, etc. At least two of them are. So that knocks that down to 20 or so rucks. And obviously you need a ruck in each team. So it's not many double up rucks, obviously, in the comp outside of probably DeConing and Pitnet. And Goldstein and Draper, I would say, are the only couple that sort of do double up, but even then they sometimes do single. But let's just jump into this video here. So, as you can see, Romo, and that's not going to want to work a little bit, so let's just do that. There we go. It was just not allowing the scroll function, so I just fixed that for you guys. But yeah, Romo is the top guy in terms of price and played all the games last year amongst only, 5 or 6 rucks, and one of them was Luke Jackson, who played as a full forward for 3/4 of the season, I would say, or half the season, as he did have Reedy as well as Sean Darcy there. But if we just go to price point, Roll Marshall, 117, we know that the top players, and he was, I believe, the top scoring across the whole comp. Yeah, I think he was. And we know that these guys, genuinely the top 3 or so, don't actually back it up the next year. And I can see the exact reason why the top 3, if we go to overall price point, in Sheasel, Cherry, and Marshall, do not back their scores up dramatically. And we're just talking about a 5 to 10 point drop. And I could almost understand the exact reasoning why, and there's usually not actually a reason. So I'm just worried that these guys actually drop a little bit. You've got Marshall, who has Boyd next to him. I'm still in the camp of Boyd won't necessarily partner Marshall in round 1, but I have a feeling it could happen later on in the year where he does do that. And I'm a little bit just less positive about it now than I was to start the year, because I don't like the lingering notion that could happen in upgrade season. So I think that's why Marshall is a guy that I've sort of changed my opinion on. He's a great solo ruck. His numbers actually do slightly better when he's resting up forward a little bit. But if he goes down to a 60% split or a 55% split, that's when his numbers start to fall off a cliff. So he's really almost primed to be best in that 60 to 80% split. But his numbers do fall off. I can pretty much put them up for you, but I think that the numbers sort of speak for themselves. You can go search this up yourself, but I will just show you in a slight little bit. Obviously, he's developed year on year, but if you just look at his season numbers, when he's in that sort of, as you see here, that 51 to 55, he's a little bit low, but those 80 to 85, if we look at the sort of, he did 50% here on 119. He did, that's 50% CBAs. If we go to ruck time, he did 54 here for a 105, 55 here for a 117, a 59 here for a 123. So his numbers aren't too bad, below 60%, but they're not fantastic. If you go to 2023, when he did 44%, and then we go 48, 45, 47, this large patch here is what I'm a little bit worried about per se. And that there comes out to 14 games at 83. So I could easily see him, and I know he's developed in that time, but I could see him regressing to 100, 105 if Boyd is partnering him. If Boyd isn't partnering him, I still feel like he goes probably 110, because I feel like they chop out him a little bit more now that they have Max King back as well fit. So I feel like he's going to get chopped out a little bit more there. Tristan Cherry, I can just see where the numbers regress in terms of tackle numbers. That is his extraordinarily high numbers. And I also feel like with getting a midfield that they have now gotten in the last year or so, especially recruiting the likes of Luke Parker, etc. I just want to also check with regards to Cherry what his numbers were like in the back end of the year in terms of tackle numbers. You actually see they were quite big here. And so, yeah, I just have a feeling that the tackle numbers are the ones, is the number that's going to fall off quite dramatically with just better ball winners in the midfield for them. Wardlaw's going to develop a little bit more. You're going to see Parker in there, I think, a little bit more. Jai Simpkin with the full preseason is going to do a lot better. Cheesel's obviously in there. So I just feel like those type of guys, a full season of Simpkin and Parker alongside the development of Wardlaw could take 2 tackles off of Sherry, and 2 tackles suddenly, I don't think it's going to be offset by any hit-outs with the way that he sort of plays. So I have a feeling that we're going to see Tristan Sherry at probably about, I would say, a 107 or so, I think. A 107, 108, which is still really, really good. I just wonder if you can get value in that ruck line and then upgrade to him or something like that. That's where I'm a little bit concerned that you can basically almost close the gap there with other ruckmen. Max Gawn, I feel like he could, with the midfield that's priming up for the likes of Melbourne, it's an interesting proposition. I feel like Max... it's an interesting one to watch. Obviously, I think does he have an injury game built in there in the last year, or was it full? I swear he had an injury game in there, but I could be wrong about that. Let me just double check that. Yes, he did have an injury 71, which doesn't show up given that he played a fair amount, but he was still injured in it. If we just go through and look at his stats here, you can see 113.8 on the year if you take out the injury game. So that's a fair amount. That's a 2-point upgrade there. So there is upside there with him. He is getting older, but with him having the solo ruck, pretty much, they're not going to play Campbell. I don't believe they will. So yeah, I just have a feeling that he's going to actually do pretty well there. And I also think that with the Melbourne side, this is probably their last year that they're going to push for. So he could obviously be a trade out in the actual season, but I just think that he's the one that's going to probably hit the ground running this year. If we look at his fixtures, he's got Giants, North, and then he's also got the Suns. If we look at the best scorers, GWS, he doesn't score generally that well against. He went 79 against them in round 20, but that was his return game. And so I feel like he'll do better. Then he has, who is it? North, who I'm pretty sure he scores relatively well against. What did he do last year against them? He went 98, that's fine. And he has Gold Coast in the next round. Watch him not have scored well against these 3 opponents. Yeah, and 84, of course. So yeah, I think Max Gawn's probably the one, but then you really like these Essendon, then you've got Geelong, Essendon, Freo, Richmond, and West Coast. You've got a really good run there for the first 8 weeks, I feel like, in terms of ruck. So yeah, definitely an interesting one to look at, I feel like. Tim English, if you actually look at the stats last year, I have a feeling it was both a combination of the new ruck rule of being able to sort of be a little bit more physical, and then also the fact that I think he didn't have a pre-season as well as what he probably could have. So I'm pretty sure he was one of those top scorers that just fell off last year. So with them having North, Collingwood, Carlton, and Freo, if we actually go, and I think this will be a better stat to look at to show you the better, defense first matchups, I believe. Then we go last 10. Ruck line, you got Richmond, West Coast, Geelong, and Fremantle are the best ones, and I'm pretty sure that Fremantle one won't include the Sean Darcy, so that could be an interesting if it does include it as much. But you have, we said, Richmond, West Coast, Geelong, and Freo. And he doesn't really have anyone early on, but obviously we'll have, does he have the 2 West Coast matchups? No, doesn't have them. It has 2 North matchups, with North are up there as one of the worst sides. Nope, they're actually middle of the pack, -3. But yeah, It's just very interesting. Obviously, that's last year's stats, so you can't take too much of it. But I feel like Tim English, it's hard to say whether he is just, that was a one-year wonder for him type, or whether that was just a really bad off year this year, and he's going to bounce back to sort of that 115 range. I can honestly see it. I just want to see it in practice games, because with the Ugle-Hagen news, it could help out English a little bit, have a slight little side effect there. Toby Nankervis is probably just getting too old, honestly, to on the now 30, turning 31, I would suspect. I just don't know if he can really improve on that. Brody Grundy, average 97. He did get rested a lot, and I feel like that could be a scenario this year where they do play someone like a Laddams in points of the season. Even just this last little round, a couple rounds here, you look at this run here, you see North, GWS, Essendon, Brisbane, Geelong, and West Coast. That West Coast game is prime for a resting there. Obviously, you can trade him out then. But I just feel like he could be rested at points during this season, whether it be in terms of actual gameplay, just sort of playing, sitting on the bench a little bit more, or whether that be actually just sitting out games in general. I feel like that could be a strategy for Sydney to use, just to sort of keep him, I guess, more physically able for potential run in finals. Witts, we've sort of seen him, he's 32 now? Yeah, turning 33. I don't think there's much improvement there. Darcy Cameron is certainly a guy that is an interesting watch. And he's an interesting watch because of, is he going to finally get that full solo ruck? If we just go here to Darcy Cameron. Because if he does get the full solo, I feel like he's a lot better of a player than it probably suggests. If we go to when he was getting above 75% ruck contests, if we look at these games here when he was getting above 75%, this one here, and then no one else here, then we go back to this games down here, you can kind of see he probably holds around the same actually. But yeah, definitely, but that goes all the way back to 2023. If we take out the 2023 numbers and look at 2024, when he fully played, he went 103.4 in 8 games, and he had this really, really bad 69 in there, whereas if you remove it and go up to 80%, which won't have many games, then you would see in the 4 games that he played over 80% ruck contest, he had a 118. He's certainly a guy that I would look at and potentially go for if you did see Harry Boyd playing for St Kilda and could cover him in that line, because he could be one of those type of guys that goes off in opening round and is suddenly a massive value player. But then again, he also is in the hardest line to cover in terms of having a rookie covering him, but certainly is a guy that could just do it, given that we've seen before him do it as a solo ruck. So certainly a guy that I keep an eye on there. Kieran Briggs, don't think he's one. I think his shoulder's almost stuffed up at this point. It's just looks that bad. I know he's probably, I'd hazard a guess, had off-season surgery. But yeah, I just don't see him being that guy that takes the next step, to be honest, but has the Darcy Cameron matchup in round 0. Riley O'Brien, feel like he's just past it at this point. It feels like Adelaide really need to go into and find a new ruck, given that Riley O'Brien is 29 at this point, and turning 30. Lloyd Meek, I feel like is going to be the clear and obvious number 1 for Hawthorn, and I just don't know if he takes that next step personally to be that 105 guy that you kind of need if you were to go for him, I feel like. So let's just check his numbers as a complete solo. We'll go 75 like we did with Cameron. If we go 75, you'll see his numbers here. If we just go like that, there and there, you'll see he averaged 94.1 in 17 games. 94.1, not the worst. If you were to bump that up to 80%, take out that and take out that and take out that one as well. If you bump it up to 80%, if I have selected correctly, you will see that he averages in 2024 a 97.3, which is already that 9 points of upside. So he's not conclusive enough, I don't feel like, but there is a chance. So he's obviously a watch in round 0 against Essendon against Sydney. I believe one of the tougher rucks last year. Yeah, second toughest ruck. It's not like Max Gawn though. That's the only problem. Is Max Gawn, I'm pretty sure, was sitting around these numbers last year, and then he exploded. If I just go to Max Gawn's page again, and I think you'll see what I mean with regards to that. If we go here, Max Gawn was sitting at 92, so a little bit higher. But I just don't know if that's if Meek's able to do that. Decoding, this basically is just, does he get solo ruck? If he gets solo ruck, if Pitnet goes down with an injury, which could easily happen given Carlton's injury history, then Decoding might be the number 1 owned ruck in the whole game. Already 25% owned on the premise that he might get that solo ruck time. If he does, then he's probably a better buy than the likes of Sean Darcy, just given fitness history, I feel like. And Decoding, we know, went absolutely bonkers in his solo ruck games. Let's just give you the stats for it. If we go to plus 75 or so, or was he was sort of down a little bit, I would say. We'll go 70 here, but you can even see that sort of solo ruck time here when he was getting it, that complete solo time, I guess, and you would have to, I guess, include these numbers here, but you can see 8 games for a 103, and he also had a couple of stinkers in there and thereabouts, but you can sort of see those numbers, and even when he goes sort of 70 to 68%, you can kind of see the numbers hold out there. So if he gets that time, and there was also 71 there, but if he gets that time there, you can see 10 games for a 97, include that there, 11 games, 97.9. You can just see it sort of holding, and he's definitely improved in 2024 with regards to his ruck. 10 games, 98.5. Yeah, the numbers stack up there well. So will definitely be just interesting. And that's even including the 2 injury games. If you take out those, that TOG below 70 and you make it a TOG 70 and a CBA's, a ruck time 68 plus, then when you put those 2 metrics in, it gets to a 102.7 from 9 games. So there is definitely value there when he solos. I just don't know if he does, simply put. But if he does, then if he does get named, if we see team sheets and him named solo ruck, I feel like he's going to go up to probably 40% owned. McInerney, sweet. Jackson just isn't going to ruck, I don't think. And his ruck time doesn't really impact Sean Darcy. Sean Darcy going over to Qatar for a more so just a training plan / recovery, best techniques, I would feel, type of scenario. It's not a setback. It's more so just helping him to stay fitter and do the right exercises in the actual season, from what I've heard, so that he can more injury prevention than anything, I feel like. So it's definitely intriguing to see him do that in January. But also, you've got Sydney had McLean, Roberts, McLean, Fox, and McInerney go over, and they've now since come back. But you've seen guys like that go over if they've had knee injuries and stuff like that, just to really gain a better insight into how they can train more effectively, I feel like, is what I was hearing under the Swans camp. Soldo, does he get the ruck over Meek? I don't believe so. Moyle, no, I don't think he's probably going to slowly progress Moyle into that starting ruck role, but we've seen it, and I just don't think he goes 100, simply put, which is probably what you need. Pitnet, hope he doesn't play, honestly, at this point. Draper, I just don't think he's ever going to be that high-scoring ruck. I feel like he's an impact ruck. Reece Stanley, no. Williams, no. Then we just sort of skip down. Flynn's an interesting one. I feel like he goes sort of around that 75, 80 marker as a ruck. I don't think he goes that big jump. But could he? He could. But I just don't think he will. I think he's more of a super coach player, to be honest with you. Goldstein, no. He's just getting on. Laddams, he played 1 game last year, so has a massive discount. But he's only there for insurance in case Grundy goes down. Strachan, Ford, Cox, Reeves, no. Samson Ryan's an interesting one as a ruck forward combination. Obviously, I don't expect him to. I expect Nank to play, But if Nate goes down and he gets the ruck, then that will definitely be interesting. But then again, we're talking about injuries here for him to get a chance, so I don't really do that too much. We don't obviously want that. Vizentini, no. Keith, Reedy, Campbell, no. A lot of these guys, as you'll see here, just going through, are basically just rucks that are there as a second or third string. And the only guy that I want to actually talk about that might get games, to be completely honest with you, where is he? He's going down the back end here, is Harry Boyd. Brought in to sort of partner Marshall or to take it 40%, and those type of rucks can score you sort of 50, 60, I feel like. It's sort of what Samson Ryan was doing a couple years ago, but a little bit more pronounced. Samson Ryan, if we actually look at his numbers here, because I remember owning him to start 2023, I believe it was. If we just go Samson Ryan, there you go. He picks that up. And if we look at that, you'll see he averaged 51 adjusted, 46, and he averaged a -2 the year before that, but 2 years before that, but yeah, 46. But he was pumping out scores if you actually look at the 2023. He had a 57 in round 2, then an injured. But then if we look at this sort of run here that he had, I didn't have him on field, but had a mass cash gen, got up to like 400k, which is 200k of cash gen or something like that. And then I traded him out. He had an 8-game 58.8. I could see easily Boyd doing something similar like that, but different metrics because I feel like he'd have more ruck time. But yeah, that's just something that I look and consider with, it's actually there. So if we just look at this run here, you'll see the ruck time in there. He kind of actually had to play a little bit of full-time ruck, but you can see that that's about 45% ruck time in total. So yeah, that could be actually numbers that you see him get to, I guess. 61 from 6 games. Feel like that's possible for Boyd. So will be interesting. But yeah, just wanted to include Boyd as I don't expect any of these guys to actually get games, potentially. Maybe if we just look quickly at the North are playing Western Bulldogs. Maybe Taylor Go gets a ruck time. Don't expect it. Feel like a lot of these rucks are still a year or two away. Will probably burn their average by having to play as a solo ruck in a game or two. That usually is what happens with rucks, which kind of sucks. But yeah, just an interesting watch in preseason for the rookie. But I feel like most will be jumping on Boyd as he was only added to the game yesterday and 0.9% ownership. That'll fly up, as we know, because he's probably the best ruck to have, aside from probably Cohen Livingston, I would say. And then I don't think Fremantle have any ruck forwards, to be honest. So yeah, that's basically that. And that's the video there. So if you did enjoy that video, remember to like and subscribe, turn the notification bell on so you know when I upload. If you're listening on Spotify, give me a follow and a rating over there. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye guys.